It's an amazing opportunity through a click of a few buttons to be able to get out on many platforms. We know that this message is so important, and I don't know how many episodes it's been over the last few weeks, but this opportunity to spend time together with you live while you're sitting, drinking your coffee in your work chair, or listening to this recording, Chizuk at work, is something which is so important. And I think that it's super relevant for where we are right now. And when we were discussing what is the message that we want to get across to those people that are out there in the workplace, behind the desk, out there in the fields, hammers, saws, gardening tools, painting, whatever you do, specifically now during the month of Elul. And the topic that we wanted to speak with you a little bit about, and these are questions that we've heard over the past couple of years in the Work Inspired Chabura. These questions have come up from people like you, and I know Rav Gerzi, thousands of conversations with people even before the Chabura, throughout the years, is that when it comes to this time of year, when it comes to Chodesh Elul, the shofar is blowing, and the boys are going back to yeshiva, and they're pumping away Elul Zman, getting ready for Yom Hadin, Rosh Hashanah. Often, what happens is that those people that are out there in the workplace, the people that are holding their 9-to-5 jobs, or halavai just 9-to-5, 9-to-7, 8-to-10 jobs, people that are running their businesses, working yomim v'layla, day and night, and trying to manage everything, right, that is needed in the world of Parnassa. Often we feel, well, what does an Elul mean to me? How am I meant to? Perhaps when you hear those shmuzes, from those well-intentioned rabbis that get up there and start talking about Elul, and Elul, and you have to start focusing on avodas Hashem, and you have to be focusing on strengthening ourselves, dedicating more time towards Torah learning. I know for myself, as being someone out there in the workplace, there have been times that my eyes rolled up a bit, and I'm like, okay, this is not what I need to hear. How is this practical for me? It's very nice that it's Elul for my son in yeshiva. It's very nice that it's Elul for, that rabbi who's giving that talk. But for me, I'm sitting here. For me, for some professions, that time of Elul, right, that time of September could be the busiest time for you in your work. So deadlines may not necessarily be respecting Elul. And I made a joke the other day in the Chabura that I'm still waiting for the from workplace to reflect the spiritual realities that we find written in the Shulchan Aruch about that during times of Elul, leading Aseret Beit Tshuva, that a person should minimize the amount of time that they spend working. Tell that to your boss, right? Okay, if your boss tells you that you can work less during Elul and the Aseret Beit Tshuva, please make sure to comment below. We'll make sure to send your boss a bottle of wine. But we don't necessarily find it, right, Rav Gerzi? So the question that's been asked by many professionals, and you might be thinking this, is what does Elul mean to me? Right? As somebody who wants to be able to grow spiritually, how is this time of Elul, a time of tremendous potential, meant to be relevant for someone like myself who it's just, any old Tuesday, any old Wednesday, perhaps even a busier time at work? How can that be something which is relevant for my life?
Okay. So number one, it seems to be that the question may appear as a steerer. So a person sitting at work, they're sitting at their desk, they're hearing about Elul, learning about Elul, reading the Shulchan Aruch, reading the Sfarim, and it may appear as a steerer. But I think fundamentally it is not a steerer. Fundamentally, the world of physicality is not, so I said, the world of physicality is not anti-spirituality. And really the mindset, the shift that we have to adopt and we have to hold is that spirituality is funneled through physicality, and more than that, spirituality is shared through every single thing that we do. So for example, when we're speaking about learning, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu is pulsating through us, through our learning. When we're speaking about davening, when we're speaking about any ruchnius, Hashem Yisbarach is pulsating through us, through our learning, through our Torah, Avodah, and Chesed. But as well, what that means is that Hashem Yisbarach is pulsating through us in work, at work, when we're sitting at our desk, when we think that we are not involved in Ruchnius. Everything is Ruchnius on a certain respect. And more than that, if you go to the Sfarim of Chabad, the Ruchnius has a greater revelation through physicality. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so to speak, has a greater revelation through physicality than, so to speak, spiritual acts. Why? Because the world was created to reveal Hashem. So in the world of Chabad, the greatest revelation is the revelation of Hashem's light through the physical. So I hear the question that was asked is, it's Elul time, I'm sitting here at work, how can I make my Elul more spiritual? Well, you are at work, you are sitting at your desk, you are revealing Hashem in the world.
That's fascinating, because I think that where the questions come from, the question really coming from is this place that when we think about Elul and we think about Rosh Hashanah and we're thinking about, maybe during the year I may have veered off from focusing on my spirituality, especially after a summer vacation, right? If you had time, and perhaps that was a time, during the summer where you may have felt like, okay, maybe I put my hair down a bit, but now comes Elul and I have to be serious. So that what comes along and what translates in so many people's minds is that means sitting inside the Beit Midrash, that means having another Seder, that means learning Daf Yomi, that means, right, spending time in Kavanah and Tefillah, and those things that are outside of that, those are those things that are pulling us away from spirituality. And what we are sharing over here, and I think, for those people that have been part of this wonderful community, the Work Inspired community and the Work Inspired Chabura, this is not so much of a chiddush, but as we've said within our Chabura time and time again, right, that these ideas can be said over and over again in the Mar Makomos that share these ideas can be learned over and over again. They're a life force, they're an oxygen. But for the greater population, I think these are where this question's coming from, is that this concept of spirituality seems to be within the realm of the Beit Midrash, and the concept of the physical and the work and the money and the deadlines and the business and all of that seems to be on the outside. So that's really where that question is coming from. And what we're hearing over here is that when we look a bit deeper, right, and in the world of Chabad, and as we've seen in the Chabura, many Mar Makomos are speaking about this really, Divrei Chazal, right, going back, right, from the Torah as well, within Torah Shebechtav, is that really the answer isn't necessarily the need for you to have to work less. If you can work less, and the Shulchan Aruch says if you can be Moser Nefesh to create an extra Seder, for sure go ahead and do that. But what we don't want you to do, and this is not what Hashem wants you to do, is to think that your growth opportunity in Elul is because you were able to sneak away an extra 15 minutes out of your lunch break to be able to learn. But what about the 8 hours? What about the 9 hours? What about the 10 hours that you were working? Okay, that's just something which is outside of my growth of opportunity for Elul. Right? We want you to understand, right, as somebody who's out there in the workforce, out there involved in physicality, is that the potential for the growth in Elul is through those 8, 9, 10 hours that you're working, and those 15 minutes that you're grabbing away, the Kviyas Torah that you have in the morning and night, obviously all the Tefillah, all the Avodas Amides. What comes to mind, Rav Gerzi, is something which, I remember when I went through my own journey through understanding the sugya of Parnassa, and as I've shared many, many times, whether it was in our podcast or in a chabur, that I've, anything that I share is because I went through this process myself in terms of being somebody who spent time in yeshiva and then spent time in kollel and had to go through this transition and found myself in the workforce and being like, oh my gosh, like where is my ruchnius? So something that really spoke to me and speaks to me every single time when we find ourselves saying L'Zavad Hashem Ari and Elul, right, is that there's this amazing Tehillim, right, that Hashem wants us to say. Hashem wants us not just to say, I believe Hashem wants us to live it. It wants it to become who we are. That's the reason why we're saying it twice a day, right? Twice a day throughout all of Chodesh Elul, taking us through Tishrei. That Hashem wants us to live with this message of David HaMelech. So one of the amazing psukim, right? Many songs have been composed around these words. Is David HaMelech says, "Achas sha'alti me'es Hashem oisa avakesh." right? One thing, right? There's one thing, Hashem, that I am asking from you, right? That I am seeking. And then David HaMelech goes on to say, Shifti bebeis Hashem, kol yemei chayai. Right? I should sit in the house of Hashem, literally translated, right? All the days of my life. Lachazos b'noam Hashem, right? To be able to embalm myself in the pleasantness of Hashem, ulevaker behechalo, and to visit in Hashem in His temple. So the question that's asked, and I remember hearing this question, right, and that's part of the confusion, right? When I was in yeshiva, was what's David HaMelech asking for over here? Right? David HaMelech is saying, Hashem, I ask you for one thing, and then he says, David HaMelech says, Shifti bebeis Hashem, that I should be able to sit in the house of Hashem. What's the Beis Hashem? The Beis Hashem is the Beit Midrash. And then 2 seconds later, David HaMelech says, Ulevaker behechalo, right? That I should be able to visit the temple, to visit the Beit Midrash. So what is it David HaMelech wanted? And when I was in yeshiva, and you may have heard this in yeshiva too, right? So the pshat that I heard is that avadai David HaMelech was tefillah, and David HaMelech expectation was to sit in the Beit Midrash all day long, to sit in the Beit Midrash. Shifti bebeis Hashem. What's ulevaker behechalo? What does it mean that he should visit? So it's a beautiful pshat. I forgot which one of the tzaddikim says it, and it's emes. He says is that what's the difference between a person, right, who lives in a location and a person that visits a location, right? So I live in Eretz Yisrael, and there are many tourists that come to Eretz Yisrael, and I always enjoy hearing about, all the things that they're doing as a tourist. They're visiting this place. They're like, oh, did you ever go there? Did you ever go there? Did you ever go there? And mamish, a tourist packs into his day, right, into his week, so much sightseeing, so much activities, that when you live there, it's like, I don't go there, right? Anyone knows that, if you've visited a country, you've probably seen more places, right, than the people that live there. And when I went to England, I saw more than, it's because when you visit, there's a certain excitement that a tourist, a certain excitement, a freshness, right, that a person has. That when a person lives in a location, so, we can live by the kotel and live in Yerushalayim, and it just, we don't necessarily feel that excitement of waking up, running to the kotel for nates as a person who comes to visit. So what David HaMelech was saying, and this is the pshat I heard in yeshiva, is avadai David HaMelech, he wanted to be sitting in the Beit Midrash, learning Torah all day long. That's shifti bebeis Hashem. What was ulevaker behechalo? So David HaMelech was saying is that while I'm sitting and learning Torah all day long, that it should be, for me, like every time I'm visiting. That it shouldn't lose that excitement each time I open up the Gemara. It shouldn't just be another daf on the daf yomi. It's a beautiful pshat, and it gave me a lot of chizuk when I was in yeshiva. Those are those things that are pulling us away from. It gave me a lot of chizuk when I was in yeshiva. It's amazing AI, it's already echoing me already in real time, right? So that was amazing pshat. That gave me chizuk. But when I left yeshiva, what happened, Rav Gerzi? I remember this pshat, and I was broken. It was like saying l'David Hashem Ari, and every time I got there, I was like, I'm a low mutzlach. What am I doing over here? So the other pshat, and I think this is the pshat that you need to hear, is that when we look at David HaMelech's life, right? David HaMelech, he wasn't sitting in the Beit Midrash all day long. I mean, he learned more than any of us, with all the things he was doing. But David HaMelech was involved. David HaMelech was meeting people. He was king. He was traveling all over the place. David HaMelech, his bikush was levaker vehechalo, like in Eretz Yisrael, we say, halavai, I should make it to the kotel to visit once a month, right? Halavai, David HaMelech is saying I should be able to visit. I should be able to visit. I'm so busy taking care of your people, being of service. So what's shifti bebeis Hashem? David HaMelech's tefillah of shifti bebeis Hashem was saying that the place that I live, my house, my work, marketplace, meetings, taking care of things, logistics, the home, the family, that base, that bias should be a base Hashem. That I should be able to live with Hashem in that place. And I think, Rav Gerzi, that's exactly what you're sharing. The message over here is that you can go through an Elul and think, okay, the only way I can reach the Ruchnius is by another daf, another parak, another kapitel Tehillim, which we need to push. But don't sell yourself short, because really there's an amazing opportunity here within that. We should be able to make that base Hashem.
I think this is as well one of the big shifts. Whether B'shita, a person goes with it or not, this was one of the big shifts of the Baal Shem Tov. And this was part of the argument within the Olam HaChasidus, in the world of Chassidut, that until the Baal Shem Tov, the revelation of that which you are doing is kadosh, to only being kadosh when you're actually doing something kadosh was, what people experienced, and until today as well. Until today, even in the world of Hasidus, I joke. I was speaking to a friend of mine who's a Ger Chassid, one of your relatives, an Enikol from the Chudush Arim, and he was saying that it's very nice that Baal Shem Tov said that, but Tachlis, learning's learning and working's working. So it's interesting, even in the world of Chassidut, in the world of Chassidus, people don't go according to the Baal Shem Tov, but the Baal Shem Tov wanted to reveal a revelation that was always there, revelation from the Nestorim, and that is anything that you are doing is and can be Kedusha. Anything that you are doing can be Kedusha. And you are the service. This is a very important principle, especially by the Pilzno Rav and the other tzaddikim, the Biala Rebbe. You are the service. By the Biala Rebbe, this was so important. And in our generation, we have to chapsha, we are the service. It's not that we are serving Hashem. It's not that I'm now serving Hashem because I'm davening and learning. No, I am the service. I am the vessel. And this shift of the Baal Shem Tov, which really was from the derech of the Nestorim, the derech of the prophets and the Balei Ruach HaKodesh, this shift is so important, to have the recognition that I am the service, and that 9 hours, people will say, that 9 hours is just for that 1 hour of learning.
Right, yeah, we hear that quite often. It's just that's how you make it meaningful, as if all that you're doing is just for that.
Yeah, and the Biala Rebbe would say, no, that 9 hours, that 8 hours of work for that 1 hour of learning, that 8 hours, that 9 hours of work for that 1 hour, that 8 hours is kadosh, if you allow it to be kadosh. That whatever you are doing, we have the pasuk, Malei kol haaretz kavaydai, nachon? Malei kol haaretz kavaydai. And what's Malei kol haaretz kavaydai? The Rebbe, the Biala Rebbe would say, you are the Aretz. Malei kol haaretz kavaydai. You and everything that you do, if it's with kavod, everything is saturated with consciousness. So the question is, how do you do it?
Yeah,
how do you do it?
That's a great question, because I think that, meaning there's two stages here. Stage number one is that, hashkafically, meaning up here, I didn't know that, right? And I think many of you guys listening may have been like, wait, that's actually, I didn't realize that. I've been hearing an opposite message my whole entire life. And what you've heard here today, which is just, we've spoken so much about this within our Chabura throughout the years, is a mind shift. So, but stage two is, okay, how that mind shift? Okay, you got me on board, right? We've inspired you. You got the chizuk at work. But how do I feel that way, right? When I'm sitting behind my desk, when I'm making those phone calls, when I'm in the hustle, right? When I'm making money, right? I have so much of a person's life. Bezos Hashem is going to be very soon going to be launching during Elul, just in time to be able to give over this message, a mini course about money and how one can align oneself for wealth in the new year. So much of people's focus is on making money. It costs a lot of money to be a firm Jew, and so much of a person who's an Eved Hashem's focus is, how can I generate money? And the question is when my mind is on dollar bills, when my mind is on shekels, when my mind's on pounds. There you go, I knew that one. When your mind is on rands, right? That country still exists, yes. Right, when your mind is on deadlines, your mind is on deals, right? Your mind is on trends, on market, which becomes so consuming. So it's nice to be like, okay, thank you very much, Rav Gerzi. Thank you, Tzvi. Thank you, Pilzno Work Inspired, for telling me this is Kodesh Kodashim. I don't feel that way. Right? So what can we do experientially to try to be able to harness this Elul in a way that we've never done before?
So there's two shifts that one can do, maybe three teachings which really should be experiences. Number one, the Heilige Zayda, the Noam Melech writes that if you start your day with a declaration, even though you lose intention of that declaration throughout the day, that declaration in the background is there. So if you start your day, and you say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, everything that I do is Kol Haaretz Male Kavoidai. Male Kol Haaretz Kavoidai. I think that's correct. Male Kol Haaretz Kavoidai. So you start your day, everything that you do throughout your day is going to be ruchni. That's number one. Start your day, even though you may consciously forget, already anything that you do is carried on that. That's number one. Number two, make a time during the day. It could even be set an alarm and repeat like a mantra. Male kol haaretz kavoidai. Male kol haaretz kavoidai. Male kol haaretz. The whole world is full of your glory. An interpretation from the Ropshitzer is that Aretz is the space you are in. The space that you are in is saturated in God light. Allow yourself to see it. It's there. Hashem is there in front of you. One of my teachers, he would always say, people say there's Hester Panim. Hester Panim exists nationally. But as an individual, there's no Hester Panim if you choose that there shouldn't be any Hester Panim. Even in the darkness, the darkness is an Olam. The Olam ha-darkness. It's a world. That means that Hashem's in that world as well. It's not that there's void and there's no Hashem. No. Hashem's in that darkness. Hashem's in that discomfort. So you can make a mantra, Male kol haaretz kavoda, and repeat it time and time again, or find another pasuk. And throughout your day, I have on my timer a number of timers where I have different psukim, just to stop, take a breath and repeat it time and time and time again, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. That does something to you. It helps you in a very, very deep way. So number one is prep your day. Start your day, like Rav Melech says, start your day where you want to have in the background a certain kavanah. Number two is throughout your day, repeat as a mantra. Repeat as a mantra the particular pasuk that you want to use. The third avodah, so in the world of Musa, Rav Volbi, and I heard several times throughout the years, Rav Yitzchak Brzezinski and Rav Mordechai Zuckerman, they would say how Rabbi Yisrael Salant, this whole time period of Elul is to work on our das, and specifically kavana. So the way we get into a state of das is just by centering ourselves. Das is consciousness, becoming more conscious, more centered, and you could do that just by placing your attention on your breath, gently breathing in. And you can actually use this to start the mantras. Place your attention on your breath, and being a Bal Kavana, you can ask yourself, what do I want to do right now? What's my next action? So we can say like this, in a state of das, my action for today is in the background, the driver of recognizing Malay Kol Haaretz Kavoda. That's my driver, like Rav Eli Melech says, right? That's my driver. My driver in the background is everything that I do is saturated in God light. My driver for today, what I'm about to do. What am I about to do? It's a question. Bal Kavana, Balas Kavana. What am I about to do? I'm about to repeat this pasuk 10 times. And then I go and practice that. And just to ask yourself, what am I about to do? Center myself, what am I about to do? And become more conscious and mindful in what you are going to do, recognizing that Hashem is there with you in the present moment. We just have to remind ourselves and breathe that in. As we know, breath is the union between the spirit and it's connected to matter, the union between spirit and matter. I breathe in, I'm breathing in Hashem. So Be'ezras Hashem, becoming more of a baldas, more of a bal kavana, prepping your day from the beginning. Everything and anything I do is inclusive of a relationship with you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and maybe finding a pasuk that you could repeat a few times during the day to recognize that 6 hours, that 7 hours, that 8 hours while you are at work is saturated in God consciousness.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Rav Gerzi. And if you've been inspired, that's not good enough. We challenge you guys. Go ahead and do it. Live with David HaMelech. Live with the David Hashem Ari. Shifti bebeis Hashem. Be'ezras Hashem, each one of us daven for each other, that we should be matzliach, going through this Elul, not just as feeling a b'diavad, not just as feeling, I got through it, but feeling that we had this amazing experience of increasing every single moment of that which we do with Kirvas Hashem.
Bracha, mazel, and hatzlacha, kol tov, kol yeshus.